to Juan.
All right, so we are back on the podcast Blue Collar Society, sponsored by our wallets. So we have Jeremy here from Hydroblock Systems. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you. How are
And
y'all?
yeah, if you could just give us a brief description of location, uh, how did you get into the industry? A little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I live in Louisiana. I started out, man, I don't even remember how long it's been. Uh, I actually started out, I was working full time with family. Um, and a friend of mine out of high school had started a tile company, was growing, needed some help. So I would constantly come in and do a little, you know, side projects with him, laminate floors, putting down wood floors, started doing tile, got into all that, and did that with him probably for 8 years. And then um, it got to the point where he said, I can leave you on a job site. I don't have to worry about anything. Everything gets done right. I know you've been talking about wanting to open your own business one day, all the stuff, you need to do it. This went on for probably, I don't know, 6 months. And finally he came up to me and handed me $1,000. And he was like, go buy a wet saw. I'm not waiting for you anymore. I'm tired of the excuses. You always say you don't have the cash to start up. Just go get a wet saw. I've got 3 jobs for you. Here's this. And I did it. So I started out, I was still doing some work during the week and then doing that on the weekends. And then it snowballed. And finally it was too much work to try to do on the side. So I went full blast with it. And that was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I never looked back after that. It got to where it was just, really constant work. And like when we started, it was, mud bed, cement board on the walls, some, liquid applied membrane, that kind of stuff. And I hated having to do all those steps. And I'm the type of person that if it's not efficient to me, then I'm not going to do it. It's just going to irritate me until I find something that's better. And so I did that. I was losing jobs to people who wanted, Schluter or Latticrete or whatever they picked, And so I went and did the trainings for both of those. And I started being able to offer people fabric membrane because they'd see it on DIY TV or something like that, And so I went through that and did all that training and started doing the work, and then realized real quick I can't stand banding. So the banding part of things really irritated me. I didn't find that it sped me up that much more than building my other showers, except for the time that I had to wait for the mud to dry. So I went back on the hunt. Well, I found Hydroblock, and I was having to order it from Missouri because I didn't have anything here. And man, I did that for 3.5 years, ordering Hydroblock from Missouri to Louisiana, and then knocking out my jobs. And so the more it went on, I really just fell in love with the system. The first time I tried it, I knew I wasn't going to go back to anything else because I wasn't having to tote the mud around. That's just always heavy. And then the fact that I could pretty much do everything in the same room that I was in really was a benefit to me. And so I reached out to him, said, hey, do y'all need a sales guy in Louisiana? Do y'all have one? He said, yeah, we've got one, but he covers a lot of territory. Let me talk with him and see if he'd let you have it. He agreed. So I got Louisiana, and we got it set up, and, got, local doll tile to start being able to order the products through. And so did that for another year or two, and they asked me to come on full board and start their training center for them. And so now I have this studio that I'm in, and we do online training classes here, and we just launched a Facebook insiders group, so you can have a forum there. So I'm one of the moderators there, and now I have Louisiana and Mississippi that I take care of as my territory also. So a little bit of sales, a lot of training. Obviously, saw y'all at coverings, and that was fun. But that was an experience that I hadn't ran into yet. Seeing that many tile people in one location was pretty almost overwhelming.
Yep.
But it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it, and it's snowballing from there. So I enjoy it.
So, well, all in all, as far as because you were at coverings, I remember seeing you there. Did you get a lot of it seems like you had a lot of people interested in the stuff. I mean, the fact that you guys had the sealant and the advertisement for how much it can hold weight wise, just off of the sealant alone, which I'm not gonna lie to you, that's what grabbed us. The fact that it was like 500 pounds or something.
Well, actually, so
just the glue.
I don't know if I have a way to show you. I mean, obviously it's on my computer, but I have. I'll look and see if I can find an image, and maybe I can get the camera to grab it. But yeah. So what we did, we took 3 pieces of our 2-inch foam, and we made a corner shelf, similar to the one right here.
Yeah.
Except this is one of our pre-builts, and our pre-built has a notch out in it to where you can glue it to the wall and then take that off and add a screw. And so like that is a pony wall that has, a wood substrate back behind there, and it's wrapped and everything just like it would be in a home. So this is actually anchored into one of the studs. Well, on the display, it was just 3 pieces of foam glued together, and they let them cure. So after they did that, they had 3 men stand up on it, and it weighs 500 and I think it's 68 pounds or something like that. But the really impressive thing that they did, they took and stacked thin set on the other side.
Yeah. See, that's what I remember, the image that I think you showed us.
Right. So they have, on that thin set, they have 865 pounds stacked on it, just sitting there, static weight.
And that's just off of the glue, correct?
Just off the glue. The same display that the 3 men stood on, they stacked the thin set on afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was.
I know you explained it to us because of the layering process. Actually made it stronger, as opposed to a 2 or 3 inch piece, which would have at least of a weaker point because it doesn't have the additional layers in between. So it makes sense.
Yeah,
but I mean, the glue part is what brought us to you guys. It was the glue and the
durability of how and the durability of the board, the wall boards too.
Oh yeah,
right.
I've still got my sample from coverings right here. My little 3-pack.
I'm gonna have to step away and come over there, but I'm gonna show you. Let's see. Tell me if y'all can see it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the image. Yeah.
There's the display.
Yeah, look at that.
200 pounds here, 300 and 350 there, and then you've got the 3 men standing there, and there's the scale 561 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that is a lot stronger than it looks. Everybody wants to say that, oh, it's foam, it's gonna break down, it's gonna do this. No, it's not. Foam is not the styrofoam coolers that you used to see when you were a kid, or I guess you still see, but like it's a lot more developed than that than it was, and some of the things that you can create with this, you wouldn't have that freedom with wood framing or steel stud framing. You can build some really creative stuff out of the foam.
Let me ask this, because I've seen some people that use, foam products, but they can actually like frame little like pony walls and knee walls just off off your little 2-inch boards. You do the same thing, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I mean it's super strong. This right here, I can't move it. It's a podium that I have built that holds my computer and everything for while I'm training, and that's what I use as my desk. It's just 1.5-inch foam board,
Put
Yeah.
together with sealant.
put together with sealant. No, there's no way to
Let's go.
screw it because it's just foam,
Now, I will say, because again, this caught our attention at covering to the point that the household that we were in of 9 people, like we had a sit down and we were toying around with these. We threw them in the pool. We grabbed a competitor, which I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
appearance looks
you
just
can
like
say it. I don't care.
Because
I know ours are stronger.
we grabbed Weedy. We grabbed the sample. We grabbed that sample and this sample. Weedy snap, dude. And we're like sitting here, and it is.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that Weedy sample is half the size of this. So in theory, it should be harder to snap that than it should be because you have more leverage with this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it just
like a
wasn't
pencil.
snapping.
You get a long pencil, you can snap it. You get a short one, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Same
so
thing.
Even the 1/4-inch board was really impressive. And then I'm not even going to question this thing. That's
So what happens is our compression rating is a lot higher than almost all of them out there. We have it's 43.5 pounds per square inch compression. Now that's not tiled, right? After you tile it, you can put 6,000 pounds on there.
Right.
Matter of fact, I wish I had it. I have a better image than the one that I showed y'all. I don't have it on me. The owner of the company actually showed me a picture of it at coverings while we were there. And he has an electric vehicle. Well, he built little ramps with the 2-inch board and drove the vehicle up onto the ramps.
Wow.
I'll try to get the video and get it sent to y'all, but it held up a car. And like this is our 4-inch foam board.
Jeez, it comes bigger.
No, this is a curb. It's a 4-inch curb. You see the notch here?
So, is that for your pan?
This is a full-size notch curb.
Okay.
So it's 3.5 by 4, and my trailer with all my tile equipment and everything. I have a pretty tall truck, so the tongue doesn't always meet whenever you are on level surfaces and stuff. So I would actually take a piece of this curb and put it under the jack and jack up my trailer using the curb. And it's a 7,000 pound trailer. So it never dented, obviously over time, the metal pressing down on it dented the cement at the top, but it never crushed it in.
Yeah. So with the curb too, can you screw directly right into that? So like your shower doors and things like that?
So if you're going to have a shower door with glass, the process is going to be drill a hole through, and you got to go all the way down into that subfloor because the inside of the foam is not going to hold anything, right? It's not going to be structural. So you got to get to something structural. But the trick is, now that you've drilled a hole all the way through it, it's not waterproof anymore. So you have to fill that in with sealant and then install your screw and anchor that down into the subfloor for your glass. But most of those glass guys are going to come in and they're going to put that track along the bottom of your curb with just silicone.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of them that actually have to drill through, and I haven't seen those in a while. Now on the wall, where they're going to go in the wall, most of the time there is a full through hole that they're going to put in there, and they'll do the same thing. They should do the same thing there. They're going to ask you to have it double studded or triple studded, whatever they need you to do, so they can hit a stud, and they'll go through that, fill with sealant, and then put their screw in there, and then it's sealed.
Yeah, so I can actually speak on that because I used to do glass installed, framed, and frameless stuff. I know for sure when you're tiling over a foam curb, what we would do is we would drill a hole, and then we'd put an anchor in there, cut it flush with the surface, and when we would eject it with silicone. And then you'd run your screw. And all that screw is, if you have a tile or a piece of solid surface, it just prevents that U-channel track, that metal track you're talking about, from shifting left and right. But then after, like you said, what they'll do is they'll line everything with silicone. And, everybody that's in this industry knows silicone holds really well.
Right. So. Yeah, no, it does. The only problem with it is those anchors will actually tear a foam curb. Okay, they don't ever grab into anything.
Yeah,
now, if it was a foam curb to the tile, Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they were to drill a hole all the way through and find a substrate, like a wood subfloor or something like that, it would be a lot stronger. Now, what do you do over a cement substrate? Well, you'd have to put an anchor bolt in there to technically do it correctly. And then it probably wouldn't work out with your glass. So they're going to use the anchors and then fill everything with their silicone and prevent it from getting to that point. But technically, the right way to do it is just not put a screw through it and just silicone it down, which that's what a lot of them do. Especially for a long time, I did cultured marble. And so just synthetic marble, and cutting it and just the dust everywhere. It's a nightmare. Before that, I didn't.
You drop something on it. You better pray it doesn't crack it.
Bend it the wrong way, lay it over too fast, and there's a number of things that cause a problem. Forget to strap it to your trailer while you're going down the road and watch it fly off like a frisbee. That's a horrible, horrible thing that happened to me. Oh, so like a whole shower gone. But yeah, lessons you learn when you're on your own business, But yeah, so we would do all that. They wouldn't use any waterproofing behind it. It was just like cultured marble straight up to the wood, and they trusted silicone with everything. Well, of course, me being a tile guy, I don't trust silicone for anything. So, except for my corners because it didn't crack, right? So I started doing that. The first time I ever had to go do a repair, and I went out and there was a bench that they had to remove and then change out a wall and then reattach. The struggles I had getting that bench off the wall gave me a whole new appreciation for some silicone. And our sealant is way stronger than silicone, right? Our sealant's a urethane, so it's a lot stronger than that. It's got a much higher compression rating. It cures. Well, I'm not gonna say it cures because some of them cure just as fast as ours do. But with silicone versus ours is moisture cured. So if you get it wet, it will cure faster. Whereas with So like if you're in an area that doesn't have much humidity, you can actually take a mist bottle and mist it and get it to kick over.
And I actually think I remember seeing somebody's video. Yeah, I saw somebody's video of doing that where it wasn't fully cured yet. That like they had literally just finished doing it, and they went ahead and did like a flood test, and it's like it just instantly made it cure a lot faster.
Oh yeah, I mean you can do the flood test right away. You don't have to wait at all. But like if you're tiling an area, say you're installing this board everywhere and you're trying to make a wet room, but you're not flood testing the whole room, right? You're just flood testing the shower, and you need to do something quick. You can spritz it, or say you did that niche thing where you've laid it out. Now you just sealed it all off. Spritz it with a little water. Let it kick off a little quicker.
I want to kind of circle back to a comment you made about the sealant, about it, kind of being similar to others. One of the biggest things, and especially me and Omar noticed while we were there, because we've talked about this and ran into this issue with other sealants, is tile sometimes has a problem bonding to that sealant. Correct. And we noticed with you guys, it was like almost like a cement. Yeah, it had like a rough texture to it. Because what we've been doing is we'll do the sealant and then we'll put topical over it. For instance, like Subway, where it might pop a row off,
right?
And it just seemed like rock hard and rock solid. It didn't seem like a standard sealant. I know it's a urethane sealant, but it still seemed
it's a urethane. So pliable. Thinset will stick to it because we want you to use a modified thinset. Like you're going to use a modified thinset on everything we have, so there's not any. You don't have to worry about any of that. And the higher the modifications, the better. So like if you've got, for example, I'd like to say I built bomb-proof showers. Everybody does. But I would use either Latacrete Platinum or Multimax Light to set my pan.
Yep.
Okay. Then I would use my Hydroblock system for the waterproofing. And then I would put Spectralock 1 as my grout. I didn't do Spectralock Pro Premium just because I had enough trouble getting people to buy the Spectralock 1. It's kind of pricey. By the time you added everything in there, they were starting to really worry about numbers. And
it's
I was
better
getting,
to get sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and I was getting, a grout that, made me feel secure, and that's kind of, and not only that, but also, you've got a lot of people that would come in and they want penny rounds or something like that on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most foam systems, you can't have penny rounds. It's a 2x2 or smaller or bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can put penny rounds on ours. That's fine. You can use the smallest little fraction of a tile if you use the correct grout with the system. So anything lower than a 2x2, we just want to see 3,700 psi or stronger, right? So Prism grout, that is above 3,700 psi. I think Permacolor Select is. I know Spectralock 1 is. All your epoxies are going to be there. Tech makes power grout. It's like 10,000 psi. It's crazy strong.
What about
you don't have any time to work with it. You don't have any time to work with it.
I know Omar definitely likes some Mapei FA. I despise it with every bone in my body, and he's known and seen that firsthand. But it is a rock hard grout. I will have to give him credit for that. Does that work?
Well, the thing is, I don't know all the grouts, right? I know the ones that I use the most, obviously, but it's pretty easy to flip that bag over and see if it's 3650, it's not strong enough. But 3,700 is the number. Like we found, that's what we recommend to everybody. And if you're above that, you have nothing to worry about, obviously. Okay. Now, if you're doing epoxies, you don't have to worry about anything. Mm-hmm. Every epoxy out there is going to be stronger than that.
Yeah.
And that I know of, at least.
So. Okay. No, I guess
you said greater than how many?
3,700.
And that's for the
grout.
PSI. It's PSI, right?
Just the grout. Yeah, just the grout on the compression rating on the grout. Yeah. Or strength rating. How?
We talked a little bit before the stream went up, but what would be the easiest way to obtain, I guess, this product, if you will?
So, obviously, you can always go to hydroblock.com, and you can go on there and look up on under Contact Us. And if you scroll down the screen, you're going to see a list of all your sales reps in the area. Always reach out and get in touch with your sales rep. Get to know him really well. Bug him, irritate him, whatever you got to do. Just make sure he knows who you are. And, don't be scared to ask a question, man. That's what we're here for. We want to be here for you because if we're here for you, then you're going to be, here for us too. So it's a give and take. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to take care of me. So first thing I always recommend is go to the website, find your service rep, and make friends with them. Secondly, if you can't find anybody close, contact your Doll Tiles because we're in all of the Doll Tiles, and we're actually in their distribution centers too. So they may not have it sitting on a shelf, but if you ask them if they can order it, they can. And if they tell you they can't, they may not. We just may not have hit every one of their stores yet and told them. So there's like 150 stores from Doll Tile. There are multiple other distributors and retailers that carry it, and it would pretty much be impossible for me to tell you about all of them or figure out even majority of them. But if you have a particular store that you frequent and you've built up a rapport with them and you want them to give us a shot, talk to them, ask them, say, hey, look, I can get you in touch with the rep, that kind of stuff. And he'd love to come out here and talk to you. And then, maybe start that chain or whatever, tell your rep about them and he'll go visit them. And then the next thing you know, they'll do a live demonstration there. So, they'll show the stores that they're going to push this product and try to promote that store. Because there's three factors in all of these companies out here, I mean, everybody makes a product that's at some point going to do what it's designed to do. You know, they all make a decent waterproofing. It's just really preference, you know.
Right.
And like I was saying earlier, efficiency is like something that really drives me. If it wasn't efficient, then it didn't. I didn't like it. It bothered me, and to a point where I would quit doing it. And so when I started out with mud beds and cement board, I didn't like the fact that I'd have to make a pre-slope and then wait 24 hours before I could put my liner down. Put my liner down, wait 24 hours for that to dry. Then I'm waterproofing. Now it's day 3, and I've followed all the manufacturer specs, and I haven't even started a job yet. I mean, I have, but I haven't even really waterproofed it yet. It's just built. So then I waterproof it, and I start laying tile. Well, a 3x5 shower I'll have done in 3 hours, built and flood testing. Come back the next day.
That's very big.
Yeah, well, a 3x5, you know, they're pulling out tubs nowadays and putting in a shower there.
Yeah,
and it's just getting really, really common. Pull out a tub, throw in a walk-in. Well, I'm assuming that plumbing is where it needs to be, right? If they want a center drain, which is always going to be your best because it has the most water runoff for you. But we do have offset drains, you know, designed basically for that situation where somebody took a tub out and you've got the drain set off on one side and you've got the longer end on the other end, all tapered to fit. Also, on our boxes, you're going to have a template drawn out. So thank God for this, but now everybody's starting to go with large format on their pans. So it's less grout lines. You get less callback about dirty grout lines and all that junk that happens out there. And or you got to a job site that didn't have water, so you had to go get some water from somewhere else and bring it back over there, and it ended up having salt in it. They call or something like that. I've seen it all happen. I've seen guys on job sites literally walk out to the pond because the water wasn't on and get water out the pond.
No.
So you don't want to do that, right? You want to make sure it's some clean stuff you use it. But I have seen people do whatever they can to get to that next level. And
pond water,
you know,
oh my gosh.
Oh, look, pond water. I have heard of people going and grabbing water out of a pool that has chemicals in it. I mean,
I would just get bags of ice and just throw the bags of ice in there. Eventually it'll melt, but it's clean water.
That's what we did at Coverings in that float tank that we had. We just bought ice in the morning, we'd set it in there, it would melt, and you could walk by and see the water floating in our tanks. And, I mean, how else were we going to fill it every day, you know, or
go to the cafeteria?
We filled it the first day with ice, and it held water for the rest of the show. So, and then we made another one while we were there. So, but we tried to provide everybody with enough stuff to where, like, your pan's going to come with a drain grate. It's going to come with all the tools you need to install it. So it should come with, it just depends on which one you get. So like if you have our classic drain, it's got the brass valve in it. That's going to come with an inside corner tool, a flat blade, mesh tape, your brass drain, your drain grate, an extension in case you had some really thick tile. And I think that's everything. So you have everything you need to set that pan and finish it out with a drain grate. Now, if you got a different color, you just order a different color drain grate. They're going to be in our catalog. There is an online catalog on hydroblock.com. Or if you get in touch with your rep, he can get that sent to you so you can have it on your computer. It'll have all of our part numbers on there. It may be different at each store, but they usually can convert that over at the store. And then if you happen to get to a doll tile and they said, hey, I've heard of it, but I don't know how to even look up Hydroblock in our system. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to type in 3 9s and then the product number. Well, for Hydroblock, it's only 2 9s. So they can hit 9 and whatever, and it'll probably pull up for them. And so it's an easy way to help them out. Go ahead. No, it's just an easy way to help them out.
I was going to say, so obviously most showers are like a 3x5 space. And one, I guess it's going to lead into 2 questions. One, is the pan trimmable and how much of it is trimmable? And then 2, do you guys have like a custom pan setting? So if you don't have the center drain or, it's not sitting up on the wall, if you have a drain in a different location, do you have the option of kind of customizing drain?
Right. Okay. So
or pans.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So yes, you can trim ours. And honestly, I've seen guys trim them way too far into the bevel. So they're pre-sloped at 1/4 inch per foot. So the further you get into them, yes, you are going to get into that bevel. Now, as long as you have the material there, you can recut your notch and still set the wallboard in there. But what that's going to do is your tile is going to end up with a little smiley face at the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know people have seen it on a big pan. They cut something a little too much and that tile dips in the center because they got into the slope of the pan. All right. Mm-hmm. Now there's 2 ways you can fix it. The way I would do it would be water test build everything how it is and flood test it, right? And then before I came in and I put my tile, I'd go back to that edge of that wall and I would skim that in and build that up with some thin set and get my slope back to a level at the edge and then slope it back to the drain. Let that set up for a little while and then come back and set my tile. And that's a way to do that. Now, obviously, you still have to have a level substrate to start out with. There's not going to be any foam pan that tells you, oh, yeah, go put it on a crooked and it's still going to work. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, but mess with the pitch.
Right. So you get into some of those houses, and I mean, if it's a big, huge drop, a big, 1/2 inch thick drop, you got to do some work, man. And obviously, the easiest and most efficient method is to do self-leveler, right? And so I don't know if y'all are familiar with Shernock's self-levelers, but that's who I had local that was readily available for me. Well, they have multiple different types, right? So they have indoor, outdoor, synthetic gypsum based. They had cement based, all this kind of stuff. So I would pick one that was a cement base that was used for exterior applications whenever I would put it in my pan. That way, if anything ever happened, I knew it wasn't going to break down underneath that pan, So I would, because I know that I can finish this in a couple hours and still have a full day ahead of building a mud bed. I knew that situation. If I went by there and looked, I would order a couple bags of self-leveler. I would get all my material ordered, and then I would go by there and self-level on a day where I finished a half a day early or something like that. So I would be ahead of the game. And then when I got there, I had a level substrate, and I throw my pan and I'm done. Now, if you can't plan ahead far enough like that in advance, I know some guys will say, I'm going to just build a mud bed instead because I know I can get it right. And there's nothing wrong with that thought process, but when you build a mud bed, you still have to wait that 24 hours for it to fully cure before you can waterproof it. So it's the same principle if you pour the self-leveler and wait 24 hours for it and then set my pan on top of it and you're done. And then you didn't have to do all the float work and all the knees and tote all the bags up and down. Well, I guess you still got to tote some bags up there for self-leveler, but not as many.
Well, also the weight,
Yeah, not as heavy.
Yeah,
especially, I had a job a while back. Sorry, Omar. I had a job a while back where they did a mud job in the shower, and it was on the second story of a home above their kitchen, and both ends of the shower were completely bowed on the subfloor underneath because of the weight of that mud job being in there. So you get, a pre-slope pan in there, you don't have as much weight putting down all that stress on that subfloor.
Correct. Now, obviously, some of those self-levelers, you're going to want to really watch that, though, because some of those don't agree with wood substrates. So you gotta make sure you do everything right, and then it really benefits to put some wire lath down in there to have that extra strength. There are definitely some correct processes. You can always look it up in ANSI or in the TCNA book, and that's going to get you there. And I had all kind of guys, and this may just be something in my area, but there's a lot of guys that are like, "Oh, I know how to set tile. I don't need a book to tell me that." I'm like, well, I agree with you. You don't have to have that book to tell you how to do it, but you know who does have that book? Lawyers, and they'll tell you how to do it.
And it's always changing. Those are always the old heads. It's always changing. It's always the old heads that are like that, where it's like, yeah, it's tile. I know how to do it. And it's like, yeah, but it's not the same as it was. And now we're fixing all the crap that has failed in result of that, of your time frame of tile. So it's just kind of like, you got to grow with the times or get left behind,
Oh, yeah, exactly. And if you're not learning, you're wasting your time. Like I go out and I was that guy that didn't trust anything. Like their sales rep could sit there and talk to me for 3 hours and I wouldn't trust him. I'd buy enough product to build something at my house. So whenever I was testing all those products, I built a square box out of Schluter, out of Latticrete, out of Hydroblock, roll-on application. I did like 5 or 6 boxes, and I even did the new Hardy board that's got like that red paper on it or whatever. It's real heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I even built one out of that. And so I would come in and build everything, and then take Saran wrap. I pour water in it, and then take Saran wrap and put it over the top of it. That way it couldn't evaporate out. And I just sit there and wait and see how long it took for water to finally penetrate through this stuff. And, most of them, 10 days, no big deal. 3 days, whatever it was. A lot of the liquid applieds, after about 3 or 4 days of water just sitting there, I started seeing stuff come through. There were a few of them that almost failed right away. And those just got to the curb. I'm never giving you another chance kind of thing. Cause this is my livelihood, And, I think I had my, my Hydroblock set up. I think I kept it for multiple weeks before I finally just poured the water out, and I never saw water come out of it. So, what would end up happening is you may not see it penetrate all the way through, but I would eventually see like some condensation building underneath there. Because I had it sitting on like some brown construction paper, and it would tell on itself real quick. So that's when I say efficiency, that's the kind of guy I was. I did all this testing to make sure that I wasn't going to ever have a problem with my showers, and it was almost to a fault,
Right.
Hey, we got a little bit far away from the subject, but I wanted to ask earlier when you were referring to the size of tile that should be used on the ground. So if you're going with like the river rock type of tile for the floor, how do you compensate for the extra slope that's necessary for that tile when you're using one of your pans?
So when you're, I guess I need to know what type of river rock you're talking about. Are you talking about the rounded ones, or like
no, not rounded ones? The
angular ones.
Okay, so they're kind of flat and jagged edged and stuff like that.
Yes, yes,
yeah. So because there's 4 flat sides in there, and it's sloped, even though it's a mosaic sheet, typically it's gonna lay flat and the water's gonna run off, and then you can get it smoothed out enough with your grout. Now you have to build that grout in there. You have to use a lot of grout on river rock. A lot of guys don't work it in there enough.
So you get those divots.
Yeah, you'll get little divots, or you'll wash it out a little too quick, and you'll pull some with it when you're dragging that sponge. So I use that big sponge with the handle and the little ringers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just basically let the weight of it sit on there and drag it and get it to clean off the top of the rock. And then I would wait, 25, 30 minutes, and then I do it again to prevent pulling that stuff out of there. But what you're going to...
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll ask once you're done.
Because of those flat sides, you can treat that thing just like a large format tile, right? So you can kind of work them into that taper so they follow that taper, and then it helps. Now, what I did, if they gave me river rock to put down, it never stayed on the sheet. I'd pull each one of those rocks off and put them in a 5-gallon bucket, and I would hand set each one. Mm-hmm. And the reason I did that, number one, you'd never see a sheet line on any of my jobs. Right. And number two, I could kind of pay attention and say, hey, look, this one might have a 1/16 of an inch thicker than that last one was. So I need to make this a starter up by the wall and work myself down to the thinner ones.
Gotcha.
See what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good idea.
Now we even have on our linear drains. Our linear drain is that single slope pan, and then it has a little access tray that is tileable. We've got, if y'all take the class, you'll see it because I highlight it, but I can't access it. I don't know how to access it at least. But there is some images of our tileable drains. Our linear drains done with river rock. And so it just runs down and gets right there at the edge of the wall, and the water just disappears into the drain, and so you can't even really tell. But then when you pull the access tray out, you can still get in there and clean it out and all that kind of stuff. And that linear drain is like 73 3/8 inches long. So it's full length. And then, matter of fact, I've got one sitting over here. I can show you. It doesn't have the end caps on it. But it's really big, and then you just cut it to fit. So that's the linear drain.
Wow.
And then there's 2 end caps that can go on the end of it. So the end caps actually are like 5 and some change, and they stick out on the ends. So what happens is on the back side here, it's got like A, B, C, and D sections. And then there's a ramp that comes with it, and you will match that ramp to whatever section you cut it to. So when you cut it and then stick it in there, it forces the water to fall down into the channel, and then the channel guides the water down to the drain itself. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do stuff, and it definitely makes it easy to customize, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
So like there's one of them in there. Do y'all do any commercial work?
Very rarely.
Okay. So like in a commercial application, or if one of y'all would have said y'all worked and lived in Florida, you would know exactly what to do. But condos, stuff like that, you can't move the plumbing because it's all, they got
prefab
lines running through there, and they're cables running through the cement, and if you go cutting stuff, you can really damage the building. So wherever that drain is, that's where it's got to go. So you can cut, the left side all the way into section A, and then the right side could be out at D, and it would just be an offset drain. So you can customize that linear drain. And so sometimes there's areas where you can't move it, and so you can just set it and move the drain hole of the valve over by cutting half off on this side, and just extending it. And so we've got that. We've got situations where it's bigger than that. Things 6 foot long, but some showers get really big, and you can put 2 or 3 of these things together with our extension trays. So you can just keep going wider. But the problem, if you do that, you have to have plumbing ran for each one of them because they had the drain in the center. But I could make, throw 2 of them together and I could have 140 inches of drain with 2 pipes. And that would be an ANSI question too, is how much water runoff can a 2-inch pipe take, or how much water runoff can a 3-inch pipe take? You'd have to know that answer before you had to put an extension on there.
2 inch is adequate.
Yeah,
it used to be 1.5 inches.
Right. So you had that plumbing background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 inch will be more than enough to suffice the amount of volume, the amount of volume that faucet is going to put out.
Right. Yeah.
So it's based on that, because the water supply is based on the drain. So if a kitchen sink is going to give you only a certain amount, like 60 psi is the standard pressure of a house. Mm-hmm. So as long as it can match that, you're fine. But 1.5 inch, 3 inch would be if you're using, like you said, commercial, car washes, anything where you're going to get in large volumes. But in a house, a shower, now standard is 2 inch.
Right. Yeah, I've been in areas where they had 1.5 inch, they had 2 inch, and it's just like they're in there putting reducers and stuff and trying to make it work and attach pipes, and it's like,
yeah, I mean, it's
good thing they got a plumbing code, because I don't know any of this stuff.
Yeah, no, the problem, the issue with us remodelers, because we're all basically that is, plumbing's never right, walls are never straight, and nothing is plumber level. So that's why like systems like these are great, because they speed up the process of the installation. But the amount, like Jeremiah saw me live, how long did it take us to make those walls right before we could put the product on top? That bathroom took us literally a day just to, like, these things were off like you wouldn't believe.
You talking about the one we talked about the other day?
Yeah, the studs were off. I mean, it had how many layers of sheetrock in the back? It was like 3 or 4 layers of sheetrock.
Oh, the one that we did?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing, is it makes up, even if it's not related to the shower system, right? It technically took us 3 days to demo, but it only took us 3 days because we had to remove that water heater. But in all reality, it took 2 days to demo. But at the same time, if you use something like the Hydroblock shower system, where you could prep and waterproof within a day, usually you got to waterproof, let it sit. At best case scenario, you do it early enough in the day, and you waterproof at the end of the day. So it, like you said, it kind of makes up for lost time in other phases of the construction process.
Right. I mean, the sealant drying up. Yeah, the sealant drying up with water misting. Like I said, the issue that solves the issue that we run into, which is prefab niches. The prefab ones are great, provided they line up. That's just one of those things. Not every tile is going to be the same size. So we make our own custom niches, and being able to get in there at 9 a.m, prefab this, go finish waterproofing other things that you need to waterproof, come back and be able to tile. That's a big plus.
Yeah.
Why you waiting? Why you wait until you get there?
Yeah. Well, see,
your measurement, make it at home. Okay. Show up, throw it in the wall. It's done. Yeah. Right? You're sitting around the house not doing anything. It's just sealant and some.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like that's the other thing too.
Throw it together, bring it in there. You're done.
That's
I've made some
too, like
crazy custom niches.
Right.
You can do all that with this product.
In this bathroom that I'm currently right now, every stud is not level, plumb.
Right.
Yeah. So now I have to go in there and shim the inside of the niche to make it straight. And then the back wall. Oh God!
House.
Or you're in there cistern up studs, and you've got a 16 by 16 niche. This is 16 by 16, right? So. Mm-hmm. That's to the exterior of the niche. That's so you can use this on a 16-inch stud wall. But if you sistered one in here, you took 3.5 inches off of it. So it's not 16 inches anymore. It's 12. So that's not going to fit in there. So now you got to make a different shaped niche. Well, that's fine. You just build one out of wallboard.
Yeah, that's literally like the standard way I do it is just cut it, push it back, add the trim pieces to the side, seal everything. But the issue that I always find is nothing's ever square. Nothing's ever plumb, nothing's ever level. So I'm sitting there. I have a shim kit that I use. I'm shimming things straight. I'm shimming things, within tolerance, because it's not going to be perfect. Otherwise, I'm going to start building the whole house. As long as it's adequate and pretty, I guess.
So like on that tub surround where you had that 1/4-inch flange, let's say your walls happen to fall out to where they're pretty flat. You don't have to shim or anything like that. You still got that 1/4-inch flange down at the bottom that you got to contend with.
Yeah.
So on that 1/2-inch wall board, you measure the height of that flange, and you take a razor knife and you cut it across there, not going all the way through the board, just barely scoring it, right?
Just enough to overlap.
Yeah,
like a little
overlap.
dado.
And then you cut half of the board piece out. So now you have a 1/4-inch board at the bottom, and it falls over that lip. So all you do is just run a piece of sealant across the lip, set your board up there, and just lightly press it up against that lip. And the sealant's going to bond the board to the tub, and everything's still going to stay straight.
Right. Yeah, that's the application that I did. So, I used a table saw and got fancy and ran it through the table saw and made a perfectly nice channel. Probably would have been faster with the razor, but it was a good experience to do that. Plus I get to use my table saw. But and then like this bathroom, one wall was perfect. Didn't have to do that. The other wall needed to be trimmed. One wall needed to be trimmed only 4 inches in one corner. That's how off these houses are, because most of them are the plastic tub surrounds. So as long as the tub surround is fine, they put propellers in the background. That's 2x4s to hold the house up. And I always tell my customers, like, more than likely, nothing's going to be straight on this thing. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
So, but,
hey, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, yes, sir.
So because this is what you do for a living, I've had to deal with several customers who are dead set on mud beds, and I have actually never done a mud bed myself. The only bathroom installs, the only shower installs that I've ever done were shower pans. So I'd like to hear from you. How would you sell to a customer? You're selling this. You're advertising and putting this product out. You get paid to do it, but how do you sell it to a customer who's just dead set on, because they've had so many bathrooms done in the past, or whatever the case may be, they're just dead set on mud beds? How do you sell Hydroblock to a customer who's, like I said, dead set on mud beds?
Okay, so there's two things. All right, one, is it a customer that is a contractor, or is it a customer that's just a one and done?
End user, homeowner.
End user, okay, homeowner.
Yeah.
So, because that definitely can get answered in two different ways.
I'd like to hear both answers.
Because the contractor is going to be that guy that doesn't want to spend any money on anything, but he wants you to get it done as fast as you possibly can, and lucky if you get paid, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
they got some of them that are shady now. Be careful, but
fuck you.
So yeah, that one gets you worked up. But anyway,
that's an inside joke. You have to watch another episode for that one.
Okay, I'll try to find it. But yeah, so I'm sure it's happened to all of them. So it's probably understood by everybody. But but yeah, so the contractors, they're going to nickel and dime you for every little thing, and they're going to try to tell you that mud's better. And you say, okay, well, here's my labor rates, and here's my labor time that it's going to take you. And you can also tell this to a homeowner too. Here's my schedule. This is the proper way to do things, and you can show them on the bag. It tells you, pour it, wait 24 hours before you do anything else. Then you do your liner, and you just give them their game plan. Nobody wants to be out of their house or out of their shower for weeks at a time.
Right.
You know? And if it takes me 3 to 4 days to properly waterproof a shower using a mud system and cement board, then they're going to look at it and say, man, you know, that's before he even tiled. Then he's going to want a weekend off because, I mean, he's got a family too. He wants to be at home on the weekend, at least a day off. We don't ever get that, since if you own a business, forget that idea. But you know, it sounds good going into it, but you know, when you first start it up, you're definitely not going to have that. Eventually, you get to a point where you just tell them you're going to take off, and they're going to have to deal with it or not do the job. And I mean that you do it long enough, you'll get to that point, I promise. But then the whole weekend, you're actually sitting there thinking about the job and mad at yourself for taking off and all that kind of stuff. So it happens. I would wake up in the middle of the night and remember something that I forgot to do, like all the time. Drove me nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you just break down the time for them. And I'll also, like, one thing that I did that really helped me, I went and I took every class that I could for the product I was going to be using.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, if somebody takes our class, at the end of the class, after they've done all their testing and everything, they're going to get a certificate saying that they're a certified installer of Hydroblock. So what I did, I put it on a zip drive, ran up to Office Depot, and they printed out a wallet-sized little card and laminated it for me, and I kept it in my wallet. So whenever I would get to a job site, if they questioned, man, I just don't know about it, I can't trust it, you know, I said, hold on, let me show you. Look, I've gone through all the training. I can bring you some literature on the book. You know, you can go run to your Dawes Tile or contact your rep. He'll get you a pamphlet with all the information about the product. You can print out the SDS and the MSDS sheets off of our website, showing them the strength values and all that kind of stuff, and then just teach them about this product. And if they're still hell bent on it, you're not going to change them. You know?
Gotcha.
Some of them, it's just like an old school mud guy. Some of them, you're just not going to change their opinion. They're going to do mud till the day they die. And some of them are going to do foam. And then you get them on a commercial job site and you tell them, look, we're doing the 4th floor, start toting bags. And all of a sudden they love foam. It's just, I mean, I don't know.
Bags get a little heavier, don't they?
Yeah.
And so get the bags up there, old school.
They had a couple of them here that was, they'd sell them 90-pound bags and then the big bags of sand too. And you'd have that guy, you know, throwing some over his shoulder, running up there. He's always the young kid on the job site, you know. But then you got the old man, and he's just sitting back there laughing at the guy smoking a cigarette. And they're like, yep. Once he gets all that stuff up there, I'm going to go up there and start working. You know, the old man don't want to do this stuff anymore, you know.
And that's another thing we've talked about too, is what's the number one problem the tile guys have in the long run? Knees and back. Right. So we're trying to find ways to mitigate that. So using lightweight thin sets. For most of my jobs, I either use Trilite or Multimax. It costs a lot, but I do it. You know, using foam pans, using foam boards, you know, maximizing the stuff, because in the future, you know, you got to preserve yourself, or else you're going to be no good. Right. So, you know, that's the appeal, a big appeal, one of the bigger appeals of foam from the installer side. Obviously, the efficiency and the longevity of your health.
So, Harry, did I get all that answered for you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe I'll just tell the customers next time, well, it's easier on my back to do the install this way.
No, they don't care about you.
They don't care about you, I promise. Yeah. But the speed thing to get it done a little quicker for them, that usually can push it through. And then when they realize the strength value of this thing, they tend to, you know, they lean more towards it. That, and then you can always tell them one thing that's pretty dang common. If I tear a shower out, it's probably going to be a mud bed with a liner. and it's probably going to be leaking at the curb because somebody didn't do it right.
Or they ran a screw through the liner, which is probably what happened.
Right.
See, what you do, Harry, is you grab your sample kit from Coverings, you hand them this thing, and you go, if you break it, I'll do a mud bed. Have them sit there.
Yeah.
And you break it,
hand them that,
mud bed.
If you really want the job, make sure you give them that 2-inch one.
Yeah, give them this one. Don't give them the 1/2 inch. I mean, it takes a minute, but you'll still snap that 1/2 inch.
I wish I had another one. I want to try to break it myself.
Oh, you have the kit. Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I haven't done a mud job myself either, just because when I started doing showers, everything was all pans, like didn't really get brought up on mud beds. But like, it's not that I'm against it, but I look at the functionality and the time it takes versus having to tote and make mud and do all these things versus you put a pan in there, everything's already ready to go. And I always pitch that to customers as well. It's like, yeah, we could do a mud bed. It's easier. I mean, it's not easier, but it's easier to make your slope how you want it to slope and all those things. But at the end of the day, it's like a lot of the times these customers want things done faster. So if you can get in there and use one of these systems and get everything in there a day faster than what they were anticipating, you could usually get them on there.
Right. Yeah, and then they want it a little cheaper too.
Oh yeah. They always do that. The other thing that out there is, well, I've got this 3x5, but I want to do an L-shaped shower. Well, the only way you can get that L-shaped shower is to do like a custom pan, right? That's how it used to be. Well, that's not the way with this system. We have pan extensions. So you can actually, because we have the notch that goes all the way around the pan, you can actually take a pan extension and add it and just keep. You can make this thing do a full rectangle if you wanted to. I mean, you can do all kind of stuff with them. Now, I'm not saying throw them together and cut a circle out and make it a circle. If you wanted to make a circle shower, then you're probably better off trying to figure it out with a mud bed. I mean, honestly, because could you do it? Yeah, you could cut it. You could. I mean, y'all saw the little stools at Coverings. They're a completely round circle. Would it be something you'd ever want to do for somebody? No. I mean, you'd be cutting and pulling your hair out, trying to figure out all that stuff out.
You're not going to be compensated for it. That's the biggest thing.
No, you're definitely not. Not the time that it would take. But
it's waterproof.
Could it be done?
You can use it like that.
So it definitely can be done. It's just whether or not you're going to invest that much time into it or not.
Now, a couple questions. Where is this stuff manufactured, or is it assembled, or what's the story behind that?
So we have our facility here in Missouri that is our warehouse. Okay. We have one manufacturing facility in China, and we have one manufacturing facility in Thailand, and we're looking at possibly getting something here, just because of shipping.
I'm sure the freight is insane.
The freight was
it's also
insane.
Lightweight, though. Keep that in mind.
Hold on. The freight was insane last year, right? Or it was bad. Everybody went up on their cost because of supply chain issues, right? That's what they told everybody, supply chain issues. And that's true. I mean, it was a nightmare to get stuff everywhere. But the real reality of it is, it costs the same whether it's coming from Germany, China. It doesn't matter because it gets put on a ship and they float it over here. Now, the owners of the company and everything, everybody's here or in Canada or in we have kind of a global group that everybody works with. Everybody kind of communicates and works together, but most of the stuff is shipped over here from China.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask a question about the wall boards. Obviously, so like for me here where I'm at in Charleston, like we can get the Go boards now right at Lowe's.
Right.
So which is nice, and Go board is nice as well. And I know like one of the convenient things with Go Board is you don't have any kind of mesh tape, or you don't have to put in any kind of banding or anything like that on any of your seams. You just use your sealant basically.
Right.
Is your system designed and to be almost exactly the same way? Sealant over your screws, sealant over your seams.
Yeah. So just like you see here.
Yeah.
So right here, you're going to have, so in between a board, right, where green touches green, you're going to put sealant.
Right.
Okay. So you run a bead of sealant here, you put another board down on top of it that sandwiches it in between there. And then you're also going to put a layer on the exterior like this. It's going to cover an inch above and an inch below.
Right.
So that's going to act as your banding, but it literally takes as long as it takes you to do that and wipe it across. I mean, there's no time that it takes to do it. Now, I will tell you this: when you're building a shower, if you want to not have it all over you, don't put it on the screws until the last part. Because you put it on your screws, you turn around, you're going to lean up against the wall, and now you're going to be wearing it on your back. Next thing you know, it's going to be on your truck seat. Well, it gets on your truck seat, and you're mad because you spent however much money on a truck, and now you got a big gray dot on the seat, and it won't come out.
So my kind of strategy for that is I do my seams, and you always seem to end up with extra on your seams. So then I take the extra, and I do the top screws first, where I won't touch, because I am that person. If it's on my level, it's getting on my clothing. Like if I know I'm waterproofing that day, I'm wearing clothing that I know I can sacrifice.
I haven't tiled a shower in forever.
Yeah,
I haven't tiled a shower in forever, and I still have junk clothes for tiling a shower. Yeah. Just because when I go do a display, I'll throw on a junk shirt because I don't want to ruin one of my shirts.
Yeah,
teaching people how to do it.
Yeah, you can ask Omar if it's there for me to touch it. I'm gonna lean into it somehow. Like I warned him when I went up to New York. It's like we had a drywall. Like the painter came in, or the drywall guy came in and mudded the wall. Say, listen, if I'm near here, I'm gonna hit it. And what I do, I hit it. So
lean over, put your hand in it, and you look back.
Yeah, and every 2 seconds, stop leaning on it.
Yeah. I get that analogy, a bull in a china shop. I'm like, that's me.
You're like a bull in a china shop.
So are y'all just shower guys, or y'all do everything too, like floors, all that kind of stuff?
Everything.
I'm all over the place, man. All over.
Harry builds you a rocket if you paid him enough.
Hey, look, I was the same way, man. I can tell you, I probably will never do it again in my life just because I despised it. But I would do, what do they call it? Shiplap. I would put shiplap up for people. I do all that junk. And I mean, I'm talking like wood floor straighteners to get the bow out the board, and pulling them tight and then nailing them and that kind of junk. Yeah. I did everything. And it's just not, I found showers and fireplaces were my go-to. So I pretty much went to that.
So what I tell people is, I do everything. I advertise bathroom, kitchen, and home. That's how I advertise. I can do everything. I just specialize in tile. That's what I love doing. It's just I find personal enjoyment in it, and if I enjoy it, then I'm going to do it in the long run. That being said, if I don't know how to do it, I know someone that can do it. So, obviously we're contractors. That's part of our job. If we can't do it, we know someone that can. So my thing is tile, which I do have a couple questions for you as far as your actual system and its limitations, or if you've had someone that's done, I guess, that extent of work. But
what you got? Ask them.
So my background, and I've said this on multiple episodes, is thin gauge porcelain slabs, which is I'm sure you're familiar with the 5x10s, and that's something I have not seen on your page or seen you guys like reshare is slab work. And I know that it's very particular. Obviously, if things are flat, and I have no doubts with how strong that this backer board is, that I could probably put a slab on here, no problem. But I just kind of wanted to get your opinion and input on that side of things.
You're going to be super cautious checking with levels and everything like that. But slabs are perfectly fine to go on it. So that's all going to be the devil in the details with your prep work. you know. So if it ain't right, it's going to tell on you, you know. And it doesn't matter if it's a cement board, if it's a mud wall, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Those things are going to tell on you.
They're not very forgiving.
No. And then like on some of ours, I haven't seen the 5x3s done yet, but so if you did a 0 entry, you have to waterproof outside of the shower. Okay, that's part of the rule. Some areas may say 3 feet. Some of them may say the whole room. Some of them, it just depends.
Generally, we just do an uncoupling membrane that's waterproof, and we band it to make sure it's waterproof, and that way the whole bathroom is, you know, good. Because, you know, obviously if it floods, there's no curb there, you know, no 2 or 3 inch curb to stop that water.
Exactly. So, now, look, I'm in shorts. Y'all just deal with it. I'm gonna move over here and show you something. So, let's see, I might be able to move this around. Sorry, guys. One second. All right. Can y'all see that pan there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So this is with our floor lowering kit, right? And so we've got our mesh tape that you'll put over the seams with our sealant. And then this is that 1/4 inch wall board. But you see, it sits a 1/4 inch higher than what the subfloor is, where this concrete is. And that is so you can take this and use it as an underlayment board. And then when you then set it down, everything locks into place and makes that 0 entry. So then you put your sealant there, you throw your mesh tape over the top of it, and embed that, and that gives it that extra strength you need, right? So that's how you would make a 0 entry using our system, and then you still have the 1/4 inch wall board out on the main floor of the bathroom. And so when you do that, you have a waterproofed area. Now, if you wanted to make it a full wet room, you'd have to take that 1/2 inch wall board and come up the edge another, you know, couple inches all the way around, and it would make a full wet room. So that's what we use in order to, you know, waterproof the rest of the room. But then at coverings, I don't know if y'all got to see it, but we had the it's waterproof. So you can use it in place of that board if you'd rather use an uncoupling membrane. So we have an 1/8 inch thick piece for just standard rooms if you wanted to do standard rooms. And then we have a 1/4 inch thick for that application. So we've kind of come up with the 2 of them and figured out a way to do both of those. And it keeps everything waterproofed out in that room. And if your subfloor was straight, you could still put that large panel on top of that 1/4 inch board.
Okay. So that mesh tape that you showed, is that something that's offered by you guys? Because I haven't seen that color on a mesh tape before. Is that a Hydroblock product?
Yeah, it comes with our system. So it's all it is an alkaline resistant mesh tape.
Okay.
So if Thinset did get on it, it won't chew it up.
Got you. Yeah. So my next question would be your I noticed you have an uncoupling membrane, and looking at it, it's a little bit thicker, which obviously, you know, isn't a problem. We do a 1/4 inch underlayments all the time. But my question is, are you able to put a heated floor system in it? It looks like it could almost accommodate for it.
So we haven't launched a heated floor system yet.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm not telling you can or you can't, but right now we haven't done that. So I'm sure that's got something to do with research and development or something, but we haven't launched that. So technically right now it's just an uncoupling membrane. And if it comes out in the future, then we'll announce it.
Okay. And what is do you know the thickness on that uncoupling membrane? It looks like it's thicker than an 1/8. So it looks like it's more of a 1/4 inch membrane.
So we have 2. So we have an 1/8 inch and a 1/4. The 1/4 inch membrane is to replace this 1/4 inch board. So if you didn't want to use wall board on the floor, you could use the 1/4-inch board for that application that I just showed you.
And that comes in, I guess, mainly for like curbless shower systems.
Well, yeah. So you could use it in that, or if there was something where you needed a 1/4-inch for some reason that you're trying to meet up to another floor, you could use a 1/4-inch and then put your tile on top of it, and it would flush out with the wood floor or something like that. Then that's the option. But yeah, the majority of that 1/4-inch piece is to match with your 0-entry systems. But the 1/8-inch system is pretty much what everybody else uses, and we have that also.
Yeah, and that's usually pretty beneficial for the because a lot of people do like 3/8 floor, sometimes a 1/4 if they're on a budget, but 3/8 plus anywhere from 3/16 to a 1/4-inch mud bed, that adds up over time, especially on the transitions where the bathroom meets the rest of the house. If it's carpet or LVP, the goal is to get as low to that floor as possible. And that 1/8-inch membrane really makes that happen, especially if the customer is primarily focused on that.
Right. And then the other thing, like you mentioned LVP, that's got to be flatter than tile does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that tongue on there, the more you walk over a dent, a tongue
it's going to be popping
and separate. Yeah, they'll break and separate and give you nightmares. So, I mean,
Donnie's going to let you know he's the LVP whisperer. He knows more about LVP than anybody in this in this podcast right now.
You're getting flown out to my house because I had water coming through my basement. So unfortunately, I had to pop out my LVP floor.
I don't know. You're going to probably have to replace them.
I have a box. I'm just saying to put them back because obviously now you're not starting fresh rows. Now you're just filling in.
Yeah.
See, Donnie just walks in, he takes his shirt off, and they all just like
click
into place.
So I actually have a guy. I just went to go look at a job, and he's got issue. He just got these LVP floors put in April, and he's already got spots where they're just like they're not connected anymore, and it's because the guy it's the tap and lock system. So they probably beat the crap out of it and tap it down in there and broke the tongue on there, and now it's just not connected anymore. So it's a flawed system, that's for sure.
Well, I like how I'm not going to mention the store, but whenever I was doing it, they had a store we had that big flood here. And it was right after the flood. Everybody was putting it down because nobody wanted to do tile at the time because they just wanted something quick so they can get back in their house. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, if it ever floods again, you just pop everything up, wash it off, and put it back down. And I'm thinking, you're going to get it in every single cut that you made in the exact same spot.
Yeah,
or
that's not
you're going to get all those to come up without breaking a tongue. Come on, quit telling me
not possible.
Kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, especially with shoe molding. That's a 1/2-inch tolerance or a 3/4-inch tolerance, depending if you're using 1/4 round. So you're not going to line up all the way at the end.
Yeah, that, and then people would constantly butt them up against stuff and not leave expansion.
Oh yeah,
and it was a nightmare. But I've set my fair share of miles in that stuff.
Miles.
But I mean, you think about when I'm telling you, I'd say probably 75% of the homes in this area flooded. And 75% of them went back with LVP. So every floor guy around here got pretty good in LVP by the time they were done. But then they even had people telling them, your tile will be perfectly fine. You won't have to worry about your tile. Mm-mm. They had some houses that had water that sat for 20-something days. You don't think it broke down the bond between the tile and the thin set in 20-something days? Yeah. So it was just a nightmare. But it ended up getting back. Everybody got their stuff fixed up good, and then it started the whole. Well, I didn't flood, but they've got something new, so I want something new. And man, rehabs or remodeling took off. So everybody did pretty good after that. So then we started dealing with, this contractor came in and and he didn't get this part square, but it looks good enough, and that's not right. So that was never going to fly with me. So we'd pull stuff out and put new ones in. And I got pretty good at shimming stuff up. Matter of fact, I found out you can go to Home Depot, and I know every tile guy's like, yeah, you got it from Home Depot. Well, whatever. But you can go to Home Depot, and they have 1/8-inch wood shims in the fence section. They're for shimming wood fences. So you can take those with your nail gun and shoot them in if the whole board is short. Like if you need to grow 1/8 of an inch, and you can stack them to get them where they need to go. So it's an easy way to shim stuff out. They're already cut the thickness of a board. You don't have to pull your saw out and cut things. But if you got one of them wavy boards, well, you're still doing all the math and cutting and fabricating like Omar.
Yeah. So that's one of those. I mean, Jeremiah got to see basically 2 bathrooms that we did here while he was here, and just having to get things to basically even plumb was just a nightmare. But the other question I have is, obviously with every installation, this is one of my thought processes. If you run out of certain materials, what are the replacements? Acceptable replacements for, I know the sealant obviously probably won't have one, but like say screws and washers. Mesh tape, mesh tape, you already said alkaline tape, which is readily available.
Right.
But for screws and washers, what would be an acceptable replacement? So,
I mean, our screws and washers are always going to be the preferred, right? We want you to use everything that we've tested. If we haven't tested it, then we will know if it's not ours. Okay, so if they had to come in, but will it work? Most of the shower system companies have a screw and washer that they sell. So I would say if you know that you're still covering it with our sealant, you're still going to use something that's not going to rust out, you need to have at least a zinc plated screw and washer in there. And obviously I like to tell everybody just plan accordingly and order ahead of time. But you can't do that on every job. And if you get too much overhead, then you're just sitting on a bunch of product. But if this ends up being a system that you use and fall in love with and really like, okay, which to me, it's hard to beat it because it was really efficient for me and it made me a lot of money. So that was my main reason. Like it never failed me. I never even had to do a repair on a flood test. It worked every single time. And it was one of the only ones where I didn't have to go and, I need to add a little more liquid applied here, or I need to double check and make sure I had this corner covered from Schluter or covered from Latacrete or whomever I used that day. It got to where I just trusted it so much that I had to use it. If you get to that point, then having a few extra sealants at the house isn't going to hurt you. Having an extra box of screws that you keep in your truck, it's not going to hurt you. I think a box of 100 screws is for a contractor to buy it here in Louisiana, I think it's $16, $17. It's not crazy. Maybe it's 20. Yeah. Let's call it 20 something bucks. $20 sitting in your tailgate to make sure you got the right screws. That's not going to hurt anything. All right. If you got a toolbox on your truck or something like that, just sitting there. So I would always kind of order it like that. Well, when I got to where I knew I got to a point where I was booked out for at least a month or maybe 2 out. And I would have them lined up. And when it got to be 2 to 3 weeks before the job, I would confirm I had everything I needed. And then I would look over and I'd have 2 other job worth of stuff sitting there. If something happened on that first one that I had to get into my reserve, then I would go ahead and order it, and then it would just replace my reserve. Mm-hmm. So I always had a little safety net there. But Screws and washers, you can get by with that. The sealant has to be the sealant. And as far as the products go, you got to use the products as far as the warranty is. There are
mainly it's just like I said, the screws and washers is one of the things that I've always found that, because again,
everybody runs out.
Yeah, we always run out. We always somehow, some way, it's like, oh, I bought 200, but yeah, I need 300. It's like, and that was just one of the questions because it helps, others like, okay, you buy the system, and more than likely it would be a first timer, so obviously they're going to be more on the cautious side rather than the over cautious, and so that was the only thing that I wanted to know.
The other thing with screws and washers that'll help you out, I don't know if y'all use it. I did just because it saved me a lot of headache. Do y'all have a T-square that y'all use, like a sheetrock T-square?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can take your wall board, and when you come up off the pan, your first screw is gonna be 12 inches off the pan. You can come up the wall 12 inches. You can put that first screw. Well, that first board, if you're using a 3x5, it won't work. All right. But on your second board, it will. So you just put a screw in, come up 12 inches, put your screw in, that's holding your 3x5 there. Then you run your sealant, you add your next board, and you stick that T-square on it. Well, that T-square is going to run vertical with your stud, assuming your stud's level. It's gonna be close. Let's put it that way. It's gonna be real close. But what it's also gonna do, it's got those marks on there that tell you every 12 inches. So you just throw your spacers in there, your screws in there, and your washers in there every 12 inches, and you know that they're spaced out correctly, and that's gonna help you have the correct amount of washers and screws for the shower. So if you use that measurement, 16-inch centers and a screw every 12 inches, you're always going to be able to plan out where your screws go. And it'll speed you up a lot too. You just hang that thing on there, and then it's a 36-inch board, so you got to put a screw at 12 and 24. And then the next one, the 36-inch, you just overlap the two. So that screw will go right here. Right in the center. It's got 4 little teeth. So 2 teeth will grab this one and 2 teeth will grab this one. And then the screw goes through the center into the stud. Yeah. And so instead of going 12, 24, 36 right here, 12, 24, 36 right here, you can put that 36 and cover two pieces. So you're not using too many screws and washers.
Right.
Yeah. No.
Hey guys. Thanks, Jeremiah. My time's up, man. I gotta go spend some time with the baby before bed. So I'll catch you guys later.
Nice to meet you.
All right, brother.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it. Good night.
Have a good one.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to get with the dowel tile that we have here in Charleston, because at least for the wall boards is definitely something that I would like to try out. And that's why I'd asked the question about the sealant, whether or not you have to have a mesh, because we have an Emser tile here in Charleston, and they have a product called Impervious, and it looks very similar to your style wall boards and things like that, but theirs required a sealant and they require a mesh tape over it. And I was like, man, that's just so much extra work. I could just go with a Go board. But the reason I don't like using Go board is because it makes you super itchy, and I can't stand it. So using your board would be great if I can get it with the dowel tile locally here, and that's good to know, because I didn't even know dowel tile carried it.
Yeah, they may not push it. If you wanted it, you just have to tell them. And like for me, they told me, it'll be 10 days out before it gets here. Right. So I would order it, and then 10 days later it would come in. But more and more every day are picking it up and holding some inventory. So I just did an in-store at a doll tile in Jackson, Mississippi, and he's going to have some wallboard in stock. And then the thing about the mesh tape, the only time you have to use the mesh tape, there's technically 3 different situations. anything that touches the pan, you're going to put mesh tape in there. Okay, that's to give you that extra strength. But then if you do a floating corner bench like this, just a corner bench that goes in there, on the top, you'll add mesh tape for a little extra strength. Just
does the mesh tape come in different sizes? So like the one you just showed on the floor, it only looked like it was maybe like a 2-inch strip. Do you have some that are like a 4 or 5-inch strip of mesh tape?
No, that it's just a 2-inch. And like, honestly, you can go to Home Depot and buy the same thing. That's fine. What you want is 1 inch on each side of the seam. So in like where the two boards meet right there, you want 1 inch up on the wall and then 1 inch on the bench seat itself.
Right.
And that'll cover that. And then the little tool that's down there, the little corner tool, will actually smooth out everything on top of it and just encase it with the sealant. So some guys will go buy the drywall mesh tape that you find. But say you went into a Lowe's or a Home Depot, they've got drywall mesh tape. Well, that's not alkaline resistant. So if you didn't get it completely embedded with the sealant, you could possibly tear it up with some thin set. So if you walk on the other side of the store in like the cement area, they'll have cement mesh tape sitting there, and it is alkaline resistant.
Yep.
So it's an easy way to find it. It's just not where the sheetrock is. Some of them have them in the same area, but just read and make sure it says alkaline resistant.
Yep.
It's usually by the cement boards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in my area, that's the thing though. In my area, they carry it by the drywall area and the cement boards. And I've had this talk with some drywall people that I've done work with. I'll put the alkali resistant tape where the foam board meets the drywall, because they can mud over that no problem.
Right.
It's just when you have that standard mesh tape over the backer board, will it be okay? Probably, but it seems like every tile guy wants to, like you said, make it bulletproof, like a semi could run into it and nothing will affect it. But that's just my preference, and I'm the GC, so I kind of have final say on it. So.
Right. Well, the biggest thing about it is it's written into some of the books, and in like TCNA and ANSI, it'll be written because it can break down with cement on it.
Yes.
So if they specify it, especially if you in an area where they specify everything in a contract, it'll they can eat your lunch on little stuff.
So.
Well, I think that's all. I mean, I know we're running on an hour and a half now.
Yeah.
I think as far as what I was, questioning with what you guys have, I think we've basically hit it all on the head.
Yeah.
Well, Omar, you got to tell me what you think of the system now that you've put it on a shower.
Definitely like it. The boards are more stiff, which is a huge plus. It really is. It's definitely easier to cut too. Not having to be itchy at the end of the day is a plus. Although, if you take some baby powder, that solves that issue. But no, definitely the boards themselves, I'm impressed. I haven't gotten to the shower yet just because, Jeremiah was here and things got changed and schedules went all over the damn place. But that's going to be the ultimate test is once I do the pan and, get the flood test done within the same day. I want to give that a shot, see how that works out, and see how the plumbing on this one works. Because, I've done, the KBRS
Which one are you using?
Plumbing, believe is the very low profile one.
Okay, so the bigger body drain.
Right.
Not the branch drain.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the one we showed you at the class where I tried to get you to pull it apart and take the plumbing out of it, or was that you? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I showed that to 9 million people. Probably might have skipped you. But yeah, so all you do is press it in, and then it grabs. And then, of course, are you using it on a wood substrate or a cement?
Yeah, the wood.
Okay. So you can, once you get it down there, you can actually screw that down and come back and lock it into place where it can't move. You'll see it in the flange. They'll have 4 little green dots. You pop those green dots out and put a screw in there, and then just cover them with sealant.
Right. Yeah, that was the whole thing. I know I got to get to the class, but I haven't done so because of, like I said, just the lineup of projects, and I had the project ready. This was supposed to be done June.
Okay.
And we went into the house, termite damage, rot.
Oh yeah, that one was bad.
Okay, I do have something you can do before you do it. Okay, before you do it, if you can't make the class, that's fine. I get it. Go on YouTube and pull up hydroblock.com or Hydroblock shower systems, and there will be a detailed instruction for just about any type of system that we have. The only thing that I don't think's on there is the uncoupling membrane, because we just launched it, and maybe one or two other things. But you'll have your classic pan, you'll have our low profile pan, you'll have the low profile using the subfloor lowering kit and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of everything on there. And if you need like that quick reference guide, you can always hop on and go look at those too.
Right.
Real quick question, because we're getting this in the chat. What's the time frame between when you put the sealant on the board until when you can actually tile the wall? So once you put the sealant, an hour? Okay.
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, it's going to have 1 hour. But if you were to get in there and it has skinned over, like you can reach over there and touch it and it can't move, you're probably going to be okay to go ahead and tile. But if you give it an hour, it should be plenty hard enough to install.
And you mentioned that watering it or misting it would aid in the curing process. If you were to mist it maybe like once or twice in that hour, or I guess in the small,
it may flash over a little quicker. Yeah.
Okay. So you potentially
it is a moisture cured sealant, so moisture will help it cure. Now, how fast it is, I don't know that time frame. Yeah. It's just depends on your area.
And I'm assuming because it's a waterproof, like it's the boards themselves are waterproof. So in theory, the tile is only just there for cosmetic reasons. So if you wanted to, you could shower straight in the system without any tile on it, correct? Just with any other foam system?
I mean, it's going to, once it's all built and everything, if you needed to hop in there and take a shower, you could. I mean, you're going to have to pay a plumber to come put the rest of the stuff up. But
yeah. Well, we had a question in the chat, and I've actually run into some families where it's like, listen, this is the only bathroom in our 4-bedroom house. And, sometimes they got to have like a day or two or they got to shower in it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Misha seems pretty enthralled with your product, and he wants to know if he could shower in the system without any tile for a good bit before he has to put tile in there.
I mean, I don't care if they do. I mean, it's not as pretty. It's not as pretty. I mean, you're looking at gray walls and some sealant.
It's going to hurt. It's actually
but it's not going to hurt it. No, because I mean, like you could flood test it and let it sit there. So why couldn't you take a shower in it?
Right.
It's not like grout where it needs time to dry out. So you could do this and it'll be perfectly fine.
We'll give them a tube of silicone or the sealant to bathe with and let them go.
And then the other thing is you can also build outdoor showers with this. It is approved for exterior use. So
good deal.
How does it do with sun exposure and all that stuff? UV exposure.
You probably need to cover it, right? You need to have it covered, but it is approved for exterior use, so you can use it on exterior applications. It's just you may want to you wouldn't necessarily want to leave it bare. You want to tile over it. I wouldn't do the untiled shower outside by a pool or anything. I'd probably want to tile that. But yes,
I had some colder plunge ideas. God damn it.
Hey, you can make one. Just put it under an awning. I have toyed around with it too. So
trust me, and that was one of the things that every time we got a new membrane or any wall board or whatever, I always made like a little cube and water tested. Yeah, and that was one of the things that I like to do, and that's why I grabbed so many pieces of it. Just to, like you said, you want to test it, build a mock, see how it works. before you go and slap it in someone's house and then say like, hey, this is going to be great.
Right. Exactly. Matter of fact, I didn't install a shower in my house for years until I found one that I trusted and just felt like I had to use. So now I have Hydroblock in here. Obviously, I got a bunch of it, but I got my showers are done in it too. So
yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting system thus far. The biggest advantages that I'm finding with the system is the sealant drying fast is huge. Because again, like with the niche and things happen. I mean, as Jeremiah witnessed that month that he was here in New York, how interesting it was. Things could change rapidly, and our schedules were different. We were one bathroom, jumping to another.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, rapid
That's just
sealing.
the reality of this work. So when
Right,
that happened, I was like, yeah, I understand, man. I have that same problem at home. So we'll just ride this wave out and see what happens.
Sealant drying up fast. Very sturdy wall boards, which is a huge, because like again today I got to press tiles against it, and you were right about the deflection. It doesn't dance on you. It doesn't move. Also, it cuts down on, like you said, the banding process and having to just seal it, because that was the whole appeal for us with Go Board was, you cut it in place, you seal it up. By the end of the day, you don't have time to tile or anything. You just go home. You come back the next day, it's all done.
Yeah.
Versus having to cut it, put it in place, mix thinset, band it, put it together, and then do all that stuff.
And then, of course, the biggest, that cost more than this guy charges, and he uses roll-on fabric where he hangs sheetrock or hangs, cement board and then puts a fabric over the top of it. Like, no, it didn't. You've got more labor time in that because you had to hang the sheetrock and the cement board, and then you had to come back and put the fabric membrane over the top of it.
Yeah, me and Omar have actually done the math on that. Doing a sheet membrane, even if you go with a cheaper sheet membrane, it ends up being close to the same price, if not more, than doing a foam board.
Most of them are within about $3 from a foam board, $3 plus or minus.
Yeah. And what we've talked about is if you really want to go overkill and you want like the strong structural integrity of a concrete board or a cement board, but you want the waterproofing of a membrane, then you have that kind of hybrid system. But it'll still cost you more than just going with the foam system. So, because me and Omar have gotten very analytical. I mean, down to like the hour, down to the square foot.
Right.
I mean, every which way you could think. We've crunched the math on it, looking down to like 20-cent difference. Like we've gotten pretty scientific with it.
Do you use spacers like the clips or anything like that?
Spacers, clips for what?
Like the wedges, leveling spacers.
Yeah, like the wedge.
Oh, yes.
Or whatever you want to. Tuning systems, the right way to say it, right?
Anti-lippage systems. We call them leveling, and then that's such a bad way of saying it.
That's horrible.
It really is, because you can still get very unlevel.
Right. Well, that's the thing. People buy them, and they're like, "Yeah, I put leveling clips on it." Yes, but was the surface level?
Right.
Flatness.
Did you pull it off the bond? Is it raised up half an inch because she's got a gap underneath there or something?
Anti-lippage system is a better.
I did use those, right? So they would call them a tuning system right here. They're designed to get you close and then fine tune that last little notch so you've got that perfectly flat surface. I used them. I literally broke down what it cost me and how many I would get per the cost across the board and figured out that one was like 25 cents cheaper than the other per box. And I went with that one because they all do the same thing. But I just went with the cheapest one I could find. I'm not being cheap. I was just trying to do the research and figure out what was best for my company. And if you're not doing that, you're not looking into your company well enough.
Well, you want to, that's part of the reason as to how me and Jeremiah try to find efficient systems. That A, optimizes the business, and B, optimizes the product that you're trying to push.
And the customer, for that matter, too.
And the customer, because there's so many systems out there. There's so many ways that you can skin this cat, but you got to see the way that fits every installation. And we spoke about that. Every installation is going to be different. Yes, sometimes foam will make sense. Sometimes something else will make sense depending on the situation. But having a system like this with stiffer boards, kind of, I like that, and the sealant with like 2 draw points to the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely looking into the system as well, because I come from a slab background, and I know that the tolerances are very tight for that. And generally, the people that are going to go with slabs are not so much worried about the price of it; they're more worried about the outcome. So I really, just going through coverings, look at all the systems. This one really stood out to me, and it's something I definitely want to dig further into. And getting into slabs further into this year, I'm looking to have a system down. And like I said, this is very a lot of information for me that I've been wanting to get, even from after coverings.
And like I said, I've got that class. If y'all want to sign up for it, it is on the website. Just go in, look up the class, register, and we'll get you your certificate, all that kind of stuff.
How often do you guys do the classes? I know I was looking online the other day at some.
Right now, I try to do them on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and the reason for that is I can't get anybody to show up on Mondays, and on Fridays nobody wants to do any extra work. So I've got Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then I leave Tuesdays for me to go do some sales for Hydroblock. So, but I am open to it, and if there's enough people that need it, and reach out and say, look, I can't make the time slots that you've got. Can you do a private class for me? Yeah, I can do a private class. We just have to set it up through Zoom. So
now, have you thought about making a pre-recorded class? Because that'd be for like
we have
us,
talked about it.
Yeah.
We have talked about it, but our class is interactive, so there's a test that you take in it. So I mean, it's not like super crazy, but like, yeah, if you didn't worry about getting your certificate and you just wanted to be able to take the class and learn it, you could do that. But
I guess
I'd never
it'd be
know
more
I
of
wouldn't be able to get it to you.
It'd be more of like an entry level thing, like what to expect. Because unfortunately, with these classes, at least from my perspective, is I'm always working. So it's like I saw that class you guys released, and it's like I want to do this, but at the same time, I've got to do work. So even if I had a pre-recorded class, I can kind of get an overview of what's happening. And it's almost like a test prep type deal, where it's like, okay, I can see this, I got the information I want, I know I want to go through it, the system, I've got to make time for this now. So
we kind of have that in the YouTube, so you can go there and pull up a lot of the videos that I'm gonna show you. Now I get a little more technical. I show you like physically, I get down there and do everything in the class, but yeah, it's a lot of the same videos, because they've done a pretty good job on that in my PowerPoint. But the PowerPoint does tell you a lot of other things. It keys in on certain features that you may not key in on that class. And then I also show you a live section of that. And so you get it from a video and you see it live. So it really helps. And something that I'm going to implement is probably going to have to fall into August before we can start it, because I think our calendar is already made. But I'm going to do a nighttime class kind of like this, an evening class, once a month. That way, people that can't get there during the week will be able to get to that later time frame. Also, there's absolutely no way I can do a time frame that's good for Hawaii. Like, I set everything up, and I had a guy call me from Hawaii and asking me about it, and he said, yes, that's at 4 a.m. here. And I was like, well, I'm not expecting you to get up at 4 o'clock to watch my video. But,
that's interesting you say that, because I do got to talk to I keep forgetting his name, from Aloha Tile.
That's who called. That's who I called and talked with.
Because I got to get him on the podcast again. I did a live video with him, because my questions to him were always like, I know you're in an island. How do you get supplies?
Yeah, I remember that.
Talk about that. It's just, he's like, whatever, like at this point, any system at the end of the day, it works. It's just a matter of like like you said, preference, right? Which one's better? But in his situation, it's like whatever I can get a hold of. He's at mercy of what gets imported.
Yeah.
So look, guys, I hate to shut it down, but I'm running a little late here too. So.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's all good, man.
I'll get carried away. We could talk forever, so I don't want to hold y'all up. I know how it is, and man, I really appreciate it, and I hope that we can help y'all out in any way. And let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Well, it was good talking with you, Jeremy. Thank you for coming to the podcast. It's very good information for all of us. It was good seeing you at Coverings, and it's we hope to do another episode with you.
Yeah,
and,
sounds good.
It's very.
We'll probably see you at Coverings again.
Yeah, probably so. 2 years it's in New Orleans. Y'all come down here. We'll have some fun.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll go to New Orleans.
Screw Atlanta.
Yeah. Well. So.
All right, guys.
All right.
Y'all have a good
one. Appreciate it, man.
Bye.
Thank you.